The bright lights of the landing pad illuminated the night sky as the Zenari ship touched down on Earth. Jack Harlow stood among the government officials, his heart beating fast in his chest. At 35, the linguistics professor never imagined he would witness first contact with an alien species. "Remember, you're just here to observe and take notes," said Director Susan Miller, her voice tight with stress. "Let the diplomats do the talking." Jack nodded, clutching his tablet. The small-town college professor had been plucked from his quiet life in Ohio just 3 days ago. His expertise in ancient languages and world mythology had somehow made him valuable to the United Space Coalition. The ship's door opened with a soft hiss. Bright light poured out, and Jack had to shield his eyes. When he looked again, he saw them, the Zenari. They walked down the ramp in a neat line, their movements smooth and controlled. Jack's breath caught in his throat. The aliens looked almost human but different in ways that made his skin tingle. Their skin had a silver-blue shine that reflected the lights around them. Their eyes were large, like mirrors that caught and threw back every bit of light. They wore simple white clothes that seemed to flow like water. Ambassador Krell, the leader of the Zenari group, stepped forward. He was taller than the others, with markings on his face that looked like stars. "We greet Earth with peace," Krell said in perfect English. His voice had a musical quality that made Jack think of wind chimes. President Ward shook the ambassador's hand. "Earth welcomes you with open arms and hopes for friendship." Jack watched as the official greetings continued. He noticed small things about the Zenari. The way they looked at human technology with quick, curious glances. The slight tilt of their heads when humans spoke. The small smiles they tried to hide. Later, at the welcome dinner, Jack sat at a table far from the important guests. He watched as the Zenari picked at their food with delicate silver tools. "They think we're primitive," whispered Sam Wilson, a young scientist sitting next to Jack. "You can see it in the way they look at us." Jack had noticed it too. There was a feeling of something like a parent watching a child's finger painting. Kind but not impressed. Ambassador Krell mentioned they have 50,000 years of written history, Jack said. "That's 10 times longer than our oldest civilizations." When dinner ended, Jack was surprised to find Ambassador Krell walking toward him. Up close, the alien's mirror-like eyes were even more unsettling. "You are Jack Harlow," Krell said. It wasn't a question. "I am told you study the stories humans tell each other." Jack nodded. "I specialize in mythology and ancient languages, yes." "Interesting." Krell's head tilted. "We would be curious to learn about these myths. Our people do not tell such stories. We record facts." Jack felt a small spark of pride. "Sometimes our myths contain more truth than our histories, Ambassador. They tell us who we are, not just what we did." Krell's face showed nothing, but Jack thought he saw a flash of something in those mirror eyes. Amusement. Concern. "We look forward to learning more about these human myths," Krell said finally. "Perhaps you will share them with us sometime." As the Zenari moved away, Jack couldn't shake the feeling that something important had just happened. He didn't know that his words had stirred up worries among the elder Zenari, or that his name was now being discussed in their private meetings. Jack Harlow, the simple professor from Ohio, had just become much more important to Earth's future than anyone could have guessed. And it all started because he understood the power of stories. 3 months after the Zenari arrived on Earth, Jack Harlow sat in his new office at the United Space Coalition headquarters. His old life teaching college students seemed far away now. Pictures of his small apartment in Ohio and his dog Max were the only reminders of that time. "Professor Harlow, Officer Trina has arrived," said his assistant through the intercom. Jack straightened his tie and took a deep breath. Trina was the Zenari cultural officer assigned to work with him on the exchange program. She was younger than most Zenari officials, but just as hard to read. "Good morning, Officer Trina," Jack said as the silver-blue alien entered his office. "Good morning, Professor," Trina replied. Her voice was musical like all Zenari, but with a sharper edge. I have reviewed your proposed list of human myths to share with our delegation. It is extensive. Jack smiled. I wanted to give a complete picture. From Greek gods to Native American spirits to modern stories. Trina's mirror eyes reflected Jack's own face back at him. The elders are very interested in these myths. They find human imagination quite unique. Jack had learned to hear what wasn't said in Zaneri's speech. The slight pause before unique told him what Trina really meant. Strange, primitive, or silly. When can I present the material? Jack asked. Tomorrow afternoon. The full delegation will attend. The next day, Jack stood before 30 Zanari in the main conference room. He had prepared slides showing beautiful artwork of myths from around the world. These stories helped humans understand their world before science could explain it, Jack began. But they also teach values and wisdom that science alone cannot provide. As Jack showed images of Zeus throwing lightning bolts and Odin hanging from the world tree, he noticed the Zanari exchanging glances. Some covered their mouths with their hands. When he described the Native American legend of the Thunderbird, a Zanari in the back actually laughed out loud. Others joined in with small chuckles. Jack felt his face grow hot. Is something funny about the Thunderbird legend? He asked, trying to keep his voice polite. Ambassador Krell stood up. Please forgive us, Professor Harlow. It is just that these myths are so colorful. Our people recorded accurate histories from our earliest days. We never needed to invent magical beings to explain rain or lightning. Several Zanari nodded, their faces showing what Jack now recognized as their version of smiles. Small and superior. Our myths may seem simple to you, Jack said carefully, but they connect us to our past. They help us understand ourselves. An older Zanari with deep blue skin spoke up. Tell us about other ancient myths, Professor, perhaps those from Mesopotamia. Jack was surprised by the request. Well, the Sumerians had fascinating stories. They wrote about the Anunnaki, beings who came from the stars to share knowledge with humans. The elder Zanari's face changed. His mirror eyes widened, and he exchanged a quick look with Ambassador Krell. These Anunnaki, the elder said, his voice suddenly tight. What did they look like in your stories? Jack brought up an image of an ancient Sumerian tablet. This carving shows them as tall beings with strange eyes that reflect light. Some texts say their skin shimmered like metal under the sun. The room fell silent. Jack noticed the elder Zanari's hands trembling slightly. That is enough for today, Ambassador Krell said suddenly. We thank you for this educational presentation. The Zanari filed out quickly. The elder who had asked about the Sumerians left without looking at Jack. Trina stayed behind, her mirror eyes studying Jack with new interest. Was it something I said? Jack asked. Some of our elders find human myths disturbing, Trina replied carefully. They believe focusing on facts is healthier for developing species. As Trina left, Jack stared at the Sumerian tablet still displayed on the screen. For the first time, he wondered why the ancient artist had drawn the Anunnaki with eyes that looked exactly like Zanari eyes. Jack couldn't sleep. The strange reaction of the Zanari elders to the Sumerian myths kept playing in his mind. He sat in the USC archive at midnight, surrounded by books and his computer screen glowing in the darkroom. You're here late again, said a friendly voice. Jack looked up to see Lily Carter, a data analyst who worked the night shift. Her curly hair was tied back, and she carried 2 cups of coffee. I brought you this, she said, placing 1 cup on his desk. You look like you need it. Thanks, Jack said with a tired smile. I can't stop thinking about something strange that happened during my presentation yesterday. Lily sat down across from him. What happened? Jack told her about the elder Zanari's reaction to the Sumerian myths. It was like they recognized something they didn't want to recognize. That is weird, Lily agreed. What are you looking for now? Connections between our myths and what we know about Zanari history, Jack said. But I need access to more classified files. Lily's eyes lit up. I can help with that. I have level 4 clearance. With Lily's help, Jack gained access to detailed reports on Zenari technology and history. They worked through the night, comparing ancient human artifacts with Zenari designs. Look at this, Jack said, pointing to his screen. This Mayan star chart from 3,000 years ago matches the Zenari home system perfectly. How could the Maya know that? Lily leaned closer and looked at the Egyptian hieroglyphs you found. These figures do look a lot like Zenari. As dawn approached, they had compiled a list of striking similarities. Ancient Sumerian texts describing sky chariots that matched early Zenari spacecraft. Cave paintings from around the world showing beings with mirror-like eyes. Identical symbols appearing in disconnected ancient human cultures that matched Zenari writing. DNA analysis showing unusual mutations in human remains from ancient sites. Jack, Lily said quietly, what if the Zenari or their ancestors visited Earth thousands of years ago? And what if human myths about gods from the stars are actually memories of those visits? Jack added. Lily looked nervous. This could be huge. Why would they hide this from us? I don't know, Jack said. But I think some of the Zenari elders know the truth. The next morning, Jack requested a meeting with Director Miller to share his findings. The director listened with a frown growing on her face. Professor Harlow, she said when he finished, do you understand what you're suggesting? That our first alien contact is actually a reunion. The evidence points that way, Jack said. Evidence. Director Miller laughed. You have coincidences and myths. Nothing concrete. But if we could ask the Zenari directly, Jack started. Absolutely not. Director Miller slammed her hand on the desk. Do you want to accuse our first alien allies of lying? This could destroy our diplomatic relations. But if it's true, drop it, Professor. That's an order. Focus on your actual job. Cultural exchange. Not wild theories. Jack left the meeting feeling defeated. In the hallway, he bumped into Trina, the Zenari cultural officer. Her mirror eyes studied his face. You seem troubled, Professor, she said. Just tired, Jack lied. Trina tilted her head. The elders would like another presentation on human myths, specifically about beings who taught humans knowledge from the stars. Can you prepare this? Jack's heart raced. Of course. When? Tomorrow night. A small private audience. Just the elders. Trina paused. They find your perspective valuable. As Trina walked away, Jack felt a mixture of excitement and fear. The elders wanted to hear more about star beings. Why? Were they testing him? Trying to find out how much he knew? Jack didn't know it yet, but he was walking into a trap, one set thousands of years before he was born. Jack spent all day preparing for his meeting with the Zenari elders. His small office was covered with notes and images. Lily had helped him gather more information, despite Director Miller's warning to drop the subject. Are you sure you should do this? Lily asked, worry clear in her voice. What if they're not happy about what you found? Jack looked up from his computer. I need to know the truth, don't you? That evening, Jack was led to a private dining room in the Zenari quarters. The lights were dimmer than humans usually preferred, giving the room a blue glow. 7 Zenari elders sat around a long table with Ambassador Krell at the head. Their mirror eyes all turned to Jack when he entered. Welcome, Professor Harlow, said Krell. Please join us. Jack sat down nervously. Human and Zenari food was laid out on the table. The room was quiet except for the soft sound of Zenari music playing in the background. We understand you wish to discuss ancient myths about star visitors, said the oldest Zenari. His skin was deeper blue than the others, with lines that looked like star maps across his face. Yes, Jack said. I've been studying connections between human myths and what I've learned about Zenari history. The elders exchanged glances but said nothing. Humans have many stories about beings who came from the stars to teach us, Jack continued. The Anunnaki, the Vimana pilots, the Sky People. They all share similar details. Human imagination is very active, Ambassador Krell said with a small smile. Unlike Zenari, who record only facts and truth. Something in Krell's tone made Jack's patience snap. For months he had watched the Zenari look down on human culture while hiding something important. Is that really true, Ambassador? Jack asked, his voice stronger than before. Because I've found some interesting facts in both our histories. Jack pulled out his tablet and showed images of ancient Sumerian tablets next to Zenari ship designs. These matched too closely to be coincidence. The elders' faces showed nothing, but Jack noticed their hands tighten on the table. Human myths are full of superstition and fantasy, said one elder dismissively, unlike Zenari history, which is based on rational observation. Jack felt a sudden anger rise in him. Our myths carry truth in them. Just because the truth is wrapped in stories doesn't make it less valuable. The room grew tense. Ambassador Krell's face hardened. Perhaps this cultural exchange was a mistake. Clearly, humans are not ready to. Jack stood up suddenly, words forming in his mouth that he didn't plan. The sounds that came out weren't English. They weren't any human language he knew. Asterisk, Nektaru Vash Mil Zenari. Sektura Nek Mil Anunnaki. Vashtura Earth Mil Asterisk. The room froze. The elders' mirror eyes widened in shock. One of them dropped a glass, which shattered on the floor. No one moved to pick it up. How do you know those words? The oldest elder whispered, his voice shaking. Jack blinked, confused. He didn't know what he had just said or how he had said it. The words had flowed from him like water. I don't know, Jack admitted. Ambassador Krell stood up sharply. This meeting is over. Please return to your quarters, Professor Harlow. The elders quickly left the room, whispering to each other in their own language. Jack caught words like impossible and genetic memory. As Jack walked back to his room, he felt dizzy. What had just happened? How had he spoken words in a language he had never learned? And why were the Zenari so frightened by it? In his room, Jack found Lily waiting anxiously. What happened? She asked. I don't know, Jack said, sitting down heavily. But I think I just spoke in ancient Zenari. And I think I just proved they've been here before. Jack woke to loud knocking on his door. When he opened it, 2 USC security officers stood there with stern faces. Professor Harlow, you need to come with us, said the taller officer. What's happening? Jack asked, still half asleep. Director Miller wants to see you immediately. The officers led Jack to a small room with no windows. Director Miller waited inside, her face tight with anger. What did you do? She demanded as soon as Jack sat down. The Zenari delegation is threatening to leave Earth. I just showed them my research, Jack said. And then something strange happened. I spoke words I didn't know. Words you didn't know. Director Miller's eyes narrowed. What words? I think it was their language, ancient Zenari. But I never learned it. Director Miller stared at Jack for a long moment. You're confined to quarters until further notice. No contact with anyone, especially not the Zenari. For 3 days, Jack stayed in his room with guards outside his door. His meals were brought to him, and his computer access was blocked. On the 4th day, Lily somehow managed to sneak in. How did you get past the guards? Jack asked, surprised to see her. I know people in security, Lily said with a small smile. Listen, something big is happening. The Zenari ship has been sending messages nonstop since your dinner with them. They've demanded all cultural exchange programs be stopped. What did I say to them, Lily? How did I speak their language? Lily sat on the edge of his bed. I don't know, but you're not the only one experiencing strange things. Other people working with the Zenari have reported weird dreams and knowing things they shouldn't know. Jack's eyes widened. I've been having dreams too. Dreams where I see Earth from space, watching early humans interact with star people. Jack, Lily said carefully, I think something is happening to people who spend time around the Zenari. Something is waking up inside us. A knock at the door made them both jump. Lily quickly hid in the bathroom as Jack opened the door. A USC doctor stood there with two nurses. "Professor Harlow, we need to run some tests," the doctor said. At the medical center, Jack was put through brain scans and blood tests. He lay in a machine that hummed and clicked around his head. "Your brain activity is unusual," the doctor said later, showing Jack the images. "Your temporal lobe is lighting up in patterns we've never seen before." "What does that mean?" Jack asked. "We don't know. But we also found something in your DNA." The doctor looked troubled. "There are markers that don't match standard human genome sequencing." Jack felt cold all over. "Are you saying I'm not human?" "You're human," the doctor said quickly. "But there's something else in your genetic code. Something we can't identify." Back in his room, Jack found Lily waiting. She had snuck in again. "What did they tell you?" she asked. Jack told her about the test results. "Lily, what if the Zanari didn't just visit Earth? What if they mixed with humans thousands of years ago?" Lily's eyes widened. "And their descendants still carry Zanari DNA. DNA that activates when exposed to pure Zanari," Jack finished. "That would explain the dreams, the knowledge, the language." "And why they're so scared," Lily added. "They never expected any hybrids to still exist after so many generations." Jack looked out his window at the night sky. "I need to know who I am, what I am." As if answering his thoughts, his phone buzzed with a message. It was from Trina, the Zanari cultural officer. "The elders will see you tomorrow. Alone. They say it's time you learned the truth." Jack showed Lily the message. "Should I go?" "Do you have a choice?" Lily asked. "They know what's happening to you. Maybe they can explain it." Jack nodded slowly. "Tomorrow, I'll finally learn why I can speak a language I never learned." Jack walked down the long hallway toward the Zanari meeting room. Two USC security officers followed at a distance. Director Miller had only agreed to this meeting if they could monitor it from another room. "We'll be watching and listening," she had told Jack. "If anything seems wrong, we'll pull you out immediately." Jack nodded, but his mind was elsewhere. Today he would learn the truth about himself and maybe about all of humanity. The door to the meeting room slid open. Inside, Ambassador Krell sat with three Zanari elders around a small table. Their mirror eyes reflected Jack's nervous face as he entered. "Please sit, Professor Harlow," said Krell, his musical voice softer than usual. Jack sat down across from them. The oldest elder, whose skin was deep blue with star-like patterns, leaned forward. "What we tell you today has never been shared with any human," the elder said. "Our highest laws forbid it." "Then why tell me now?" Jack asked. "Because you already know," said another elder. "Your body remembers what your mind does not." Ambassador Krell pressed a button on the table. A 3D image appeared above them, a map of stars with Earth highlighted. 30,000 years ago, Krell began, the Zanari explored many worlds. Earth was one of them. "We established research outposts here to study early humans." The image changed to show ancient Earth, with small Zanari buildings scattered across continents. Some Zanari researchers grew too close to the humans they studied. The oldest elder continued. "They formed relationships. Some had children with humans." Jack's heart raced. "Hybrids." "Yes," said Krell. "These hybrids were meant to be intermediaries, bridges between our species, but they developed unexpected abilities." "Genetic memory," said one elder. "The ability to access Zanari knowledge through their DNA when exposed to pure Zanari." "Like me," Jack whispered. The oldest elder nodded. "Your genetic tests confirm it. You have more Zanari DNA than most. We did not expect any hybrids to retain these abilities after so many generations." Jack tried to process this information. "So when I spoke your language at dinner, you accessed ancestral memory," Krell said. "Words spoken by your Zanari ancestors thousands of years ago." But why hide this history? Jack asked. Why not tell humanity the truth from the beginning? The elders exchanged uncomfortable glances. Our most sacred law forbids interfering with developing species, the oldest elder explained. What happened on Earth was a terrible crime in our society. If our people learned that we violated this law, and that some leaders knew about it, it would destabilize Zenari civilization. Krell finished. Our entire moral system is built on non-interference. Jack understood now. That's why you laughed at our myths. You were trying to hide the truth in them. Yes, admitted an elder. Your myths contain fragments of our history. We hope to discredit them as primitive superstition. Ambassador Krell stood up and walked to Jack. Professor Harlow, we must make a deal. Earth can have advanced Zenari technology and favorable trade terms. In exchange, this history must remain secret. And what about me? Jack asked. What about others like me? You will undergo a procedure to suppress your awakened genetic memories, said the oldest elder. It is painless but necessary. Jack felt cold. You want me to forget everything. It is the only way forward, Krell said firmly. Otherwise, we must end all contact with Earth. You have one day to decide, the oldest elder said. Tell no one what we have shared, or negotiations will end immediately. As Jack left the room, his mind raced with impossible choices. Technology that could advance humanity by centuries, or the truth about human origins, his own memories or Earth's future. In his room, he found Lily waiting anxiously. What did they tell you? She asked. Jack looked at her, torn between keeping the Zenari secret and sharing the truth with someone he trusted. Everything, he finally said. And now I have to make an impossible choice. Jack couldn't sleep that night. The Zenari offer played over and over in his mind. Advanced technology that could solve Earth's biggest problems, or the truth about human origins. By morning, he still had no answer. You need to talk to Director Miller, Lily said as they shared coffee in his room. This is too big for you to decide alone. Jack shook his head. The elders said to tell no one. If I break that promise, they'll end all contact with Earth. But this affects all humanity, not just you, Lily argued. And what about other hybrids? Don't they deserve to know who they are? Lily's words stuck with Jack as he walked to his meeting with Director Miller. He had told her only that the Zenari wanted to make a deal, not the details of their history with Earth. Whatever they're offering, take it, Director Miller said when Jack arrived at her office. We need this alliance, Professor Harlow. Even if it means hiding the truth, Jack asked. Director Miller's eyes narrowed. What truth? Jack hesitated, then made a decision. He told her everything the Zenari had shared with him. As he spoke, Director Miller's face changed from disbelief to shock to calculation. When he finished, she was quiet for a long time. If what you say is true, she finally said, then we have leverage we didn't know about. Leverage? Jack asked. The Zenari need our silence as much as we need their technology, she explained. Maybe we can negotiate a better deal. 3 hours later, Jack sat in the main conference room with Director Miller, Ambassador Krell, and the Zenari elders. The tension in the room was thick enough to touch. You broke our trust, Krell said to Jack, his musical voice flat with anger. I had to, Jack replied. This isn't just about me. It's about all humans who carry Zenari DNA. The oldest elder leaned forward. What do you want? Director Miller started to speak, but Jack raised his hand to stop her. Something was happening in his mind. Words and ideas flowed into his thoughts. Knowledge from his Zenari ancestors. I propose a third option, Jack said calmly. I will keep the full extent of Zenari human history private for now, but you must acknowledge some historical contact with Earth. The elders shifted uncomfortably, but remained silent. You must also establish a joint research program to study the hybrid lineage, Jack continued. Most importantly, you must help identify and support other hybrids whose abilities might activate through contact with your people. Impossible, said Krell. Our laws. Your laws were already broken 30,000 years ago. Jack interrupted. Now you must deal with the consequences. The oldest elder studied Jack with his mirror eyes. Why should we agree to these terms? Jack smiled slightly. Because I know things. Things your people have forgotten. Jack began to speak in ancient Zenari, words flowing from some deep place in his DNA. He described a civil war in early Zenari history, secrets that could truly shake their civilization. The elders' faces showed fear for the first time. How do you know this? Whispered the oldest elder. Those records were destroyed ages ago. Genetic memory works both ways, Jack said, switching back to English. I remember what my Zenari ancestors knew, including things they wanted hidden. A long silence filled the room. Finally, Krell nodded. We will consider your proposal. 2 weeks later, Jack and Lily stood together watching a new building being constructed. The first human Zenari Genetic Research Center. The agreement had been signed. Humanity would learn some of the truth, that the Zenari had visited Earth long ago. The full story would come later, when both sides were ready. Do you think we made the right choice? Lily asked. Jack watched as humans and Zenari worked together on the building. I think we made a beginning. That's enough for now. Across Earth, others began to dream of stars and remember things they couldn't possibly know. Jack's work was just beginning, finding those who carried the legacy of two worlds, building a bridge between human and Zenari. The aliens had laughed at human myths, until one human spoke their ancient truth.